The red emergency lights flashed across the bridge of the Federation starship Harmony as Captain Sora Park stared at the incoming transmission. Her blue skin had turned pale as she read the desperate message from Kepler 442b mining colony. The words made her stomach twist with fear. Ambassador Tae-Ming Kim appeared on the main screen. His usually calm face was covered in dirt and sweat. Behind him, screams echoed through the colony corridors. Something big crashed in the background, making the transmission shake. "This is Ambassador Kim from Kepler 442b colony," he said quickly. His voice was shaking. "We need immediate military assistance. The situation is beyond critical. Something has awakened beneath our mining operations." Captain Park leaned forward in her chair. She had served in the Federation Navy for 20 years. She had seen pirates, raiders, and hostile aliens. But she had never heard such pure terror in a diplomat's voice. "What exactly are you dealing with, Ambassador?" she asked. Kim looked over his shoulder as another crash shook the transmission. "We call them the Devourers, ancient creatures that were sleeping deep underground. Our miners broke through into their chambers 3 days ago." The screen flickered and showed glimpses of the colony. Bodies lay scattered in the corridors. Strange green acid burned through metal walls. Deep claw marks scarred every surface. "How many casualties?" Captain Park asked. 25,000 dead in 3 days, Kim replied. "Maybe more. These things are 12 feet tall with armor like battleship hull. They have claws that cut through steel like paper. Their blood burns through everything it touches." Captain Park felt her crew shift nervously behind her. Her tactical officer, a tall Zephyrian named Veltar, checked his weapon systems. Her science officer, Dr. Colven from Altair, was already pulling up data on the planet. "We have acidic blood readings off the charts," Dr. Colven reported. "Biosignatures show massive insectoid life forms. Their exoskeletons are denser than our ship armor." Kim continued his report. "They hunt in groups. Perfect coordination, like they share one mind. Our security forces are using plasma rifles. Energy weapons, everything we have. Nothing stops them." Another explosion rocked the transmission. Kim ducked as ceiling pieces fell around him. "Our energy weapons just bounce off their shells," he said. "When we do manage to wound one, their acid blood sprays everywhere. It kills our people and melts our equipment." Captain Park had fought the Zarkith Raiders and the Volani Pirates. She had never retreated from a battle. But looking at the footage from the colony made her hands shake. "How many survivors are left?" she asked. "Maybe 20,000 scattered throughout the colony," Kim said. "But they are finding us. They seem to smell fear. They track us through the ventilation systems. They are perfect killers." The transmission showed a quick glimpse of one of the creatures. It moved on 6 legs with incredible speed. Its head was triangular with thousands of small black eyes. 4 arms ended in claws longer than swords. When it opened its mouth, rows of razor teeth dripped with green saliva. "Admiral Zethmar is sending 3 more ships," Captain Park said. "The entire 4th Fleet will be there within 18 hours. Kim shook his head. "Captain, you do not understand. These things are not just strong. They are smart. They learn from every attack. They adapt to our tactics. The Colony Defense Force had 2,000 trained soldiers. They lasted 4 hours. The captain's communications officer, Ensign Pilren, looked up from her station. "Captain, I am receiving distress calls from 6 other systems. Similar attacks. The Devourers are not just on Kepler 442b. Captain Park felt cold fear run down her spine. If these creatures were attacking multiple colonies, this was not just a local emergency. This was an invasion. "Ambassador, what do you know about these Devourers?" she asked. Kim looked exhausted. "According to our archaeological team, they are ancient. Maybe millions of years old. They hibernate for centuries, then wake up when they sense large populations nearby. They consume everything organic. Dr. Colvin pulled up more data. Captain, based on these bio-readings, a single devourer could kill 20 Federation soldiers. They are built for hunting and killing. The transmission flickered again. In the background, something was banging on metal doors. The sound was getting louder. They found us, Kim whispered. Captain, if your fleet cannot stop them, they will spread to every inhabited world in this sector. Captain Park made her decision. All ships, maximum speed to Kepler 442b. Prepare for combat operations. But even as she gave the order, she knew her ships were not enough. The Federation had spent centuries developing peaceful solutions to conflicts. Their weapons were designed to disable, not destroy. Their soldiers were trained for law enforcement, not warfare against perfect killing machines. As the Harmony jumped to hyperspace, Captain Park accessed the Federation's classified contact database. She scrolled through options for emergency, military assistance. Most entries were for Federation allies with similar peaceful philosophies. Then she found one entry that made her pause. It was marked with warning symbols and caution notices. The file was labeled Earth Humans, use only in extreme emergency. She opened the file and read the warnings. Humans are extremely violent species. They wage war as their primary solution to problems. Their weapons are designed for maximum lethality. Their soldiers show disturbing enjoyment of combat situations. Captain Park looked at the tactical display showing Devour attack patterns. She thought about Ambassador Kim's terrified face. She considered the 25,000 dead colonists. She opened a communication channel to Earth. This is Captain Sora Park of the Federation Starship Harmony, she said into the recorder. We are requesting immediate military assistance against hostile alien invasion. We need soldiers who specialize in extreme combat situations. She paused, then added, we are fighting monsters. We need bigger monsters. The message was sent toward a small blue planet on the edge of civilized space. A world that most Federation members considered too dangerous to visit. A place where the dominant species had fought wars for thousands of years. Captain Park did not know that her message would reach Admiral Wu Jin Lee at Terra Command. She did not know that humans had been waiting for exactly this kind of request. She did not know that Earth soldiers called missions like this pest control. As the Harmony dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 442b, Captain Park saw the colony burning in the distance. The Devourers had spread across the entire settlement. They moved in perfect formation like a hive mind controlling thousands of individual killers. Her tactical officer reported, Captain, sensors show over 100,000 Devourers on the planet's surface. Our weapons are not designed for this level of threat. Captain Park nodded grimly. She had done everything she could with Federation resources. Now she could only hope that the monsters from Earth would arrive before it was too late. Far away on Earth, Admiral Lee was already mobilizing the human response. Ships were being loaded with weapons that the Federation had banned as too cruel for civilized warfare. The real monsters were coming. The space around Kepler 442b suddenly rippled as a massive ship dropped out of hyperspace. Captain Sora Park looked at her sensors and felt her breath catch in her throat. The vessel was unlike anything she had ever seen. The UE's Vengeance was painted in dark gray and black. Strange symbols covered its hull. Instead of the smooth curves of Federation ships, it was all sharp angles and weapon ports. The ship looked like it was built for one purpose only: war. Incoming transmission from the human vessel, reported Ensign PYL-Ren. Captain Park straightened in her chair. Put them through. A human face appeared on the main screen. He had dark hair and cold eyes that seemed to look right through her. His uniform was different from Federation military dress. It looked practical and worn from use. This is Captain "Minho Choi of the United Earthship Vengeance," he said. His voice was calm but somehow dangerous. "We received your request for pest control services." Captain Park blinked. "Pest control?" Captain Choi smiled. It was not a warm expression. "That is what we call bug problems. We have experience with infestations like this. Where do you need us to start cleaning?" Before Captain Park could answer, her tactical officer called out, "Captain, the human ship is launching drop pods, hundreds of them." On the main screen, Captain Park watched small metal capsules shoot toward the planet's surface. They moved faster than any Federation transport. As they entered the atmosphere, they began to glow from heat. "Captain Choi, should we coordinate our attack?" Captain Park asked. The human captain shook his head. "Stay back and watch. Your people are not equipped for this kind of work." The drop pods crashed into the colony like meteors. Each impact sent up clouds of dust and debris. Captain Park expected to see damaged landing craft and injured soldiers. Instead, humans emerged from the pods already firing weapons. These were not the energy weapons that Federation forces used. These were projectile weapons that fired solid metal bullets. The sound was different too. Instead of the quiet hum of plasma rifles, human weapons made loud explosive noises that echoed across the colony. "My sensors show the humans are using kinetic weapons," Dr. Colvin reported. "Primitive projectile technology." But as they watched, those primitive weapons began tearing through Devour armor like it was paper. Sergeant Haijin Nam led the first squad into the colony corridors. She was smaller than most Federation soldiers, but she moved with deadly confidence. When a group of Devourers rushed her position, she did not retreat. Instead, she laughed. "Contact front," she called to her squad. "Looks like we got a live one." The Devourers that had terrorized Federation forces for days suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered. Humans who showed no fear. Humans who seemed to enjoy the fight. Lieutenant Dayun Yoon set up a heavy weapon that fired explosive rounds. Each shot blew chunks of armor off the Devourers. When their acid blood sprayed, the humans simply stepped aside and kept firing. "Federation observers, this is Lieutenant Yoon," she said calmly into her radio. "Standard bug extermination protocol is working as expected. We should have this cleaned up in a few hours." Captain Park could not believe what she was seeing. The creatures that had killed 25,000 colonists were being systematically hunted down by human soldiers who treated it like routine work. Corporal Ji Sung Kang led his team into the darkest tunnels where Devourers had been hiding. The humans moved without lights, using strange equipment that let them see in complete darkness. They set traps and ambushes that caught the Devourers completely by surprise. "How are they doing this?" asked Dr. Colvin. "The Devourers have perfect night vision and acid blood that melts everything." Captain Park watched as human soldiers used flamethrowers that burned hotter than anything in the Federation arsenal. They wore armor that seemed to resist the acid blood. Most importantly, they worked together with coordination that matched the Devourers' hive mind. But where the Devourers showed fear when things went wrong, the humans adapted and overcame. A group of Devourers tried to surround a human squad in the main colony plaza. The creatures thought they had trapped their prey. Instead, the humans had been leading them into position. "Fire in the hole," called out Specialist Taeho Park. Explosions rocked the plaza as the humans detonated charges they had placed while retreating. The blast killed dozens of Devourers instantly. The survivors found themselves facing human soldiers who had circled around behind them. "Clean up on aisle 7, joked Private Jong-soo Kim as he fired his weapon into the confused creatures. Captain Park realized something that made her skin crawl. The humans were not just winning the fight. They were enjoying it. Federation soldiers fought because they had to. They took no pleasure in violence. But these humans seemed to come alive during combat. They laughed and made jokes while killing creatures that had given her nightmares. "Captain Park, this is Sergeant Nam," came a voice over the radio. "We have cleared sectors 1 through 5. Light resistance. Should be finished with the extermination in about 2 hours." 2 hours. Captain Park had been fighting the Devourers for 3 days with minimal success. The humans expected to finish the job in 2 hours. "Sergeant, what are your casualty reports?" Captain Park asked. There was a pause. "Casualties? Oh, you mean injuries." Private Lee twisted his ankle, jumping out of a drop pod. Corporal Kang got some acid splashed on his armor, but it held up fine. That is about it. Captain Park felt dizzy. Her forces had lost thousands of soldiers. The humans had one twisted ankle. On the planet's surface, the Devourers were experiencing something they had never felt in millions of years of existence. Fear. Their hive mind was filled with confusion and panic. These new creatures fought like nothing they had ever encountered. The humans used fire, explosives, and chemical weapons that caused terrible pain. Worse than the weapons was the attitude. The humans hunted Devourers the same way Devourers hunted prey, with patience, intelligence, and ruthless efficiency. Commander Unisong landed with the second wave of troops. She carried weapons that made Captain Park's crew step back from their screens in horror. Chemical sprayers that dissolved Devourer armor. Sonic weapons that disrupted their nervous systems. Traps that used their own hunting instincts against them. "Federation vessel, this is Commander Song," she reported. "We are moving to Phase 2 of extermination protocol. You might want to move your ship back a few thousand kilometers." "Why?" asked Captain Park. Commander Song's smile was visible even through the static. "Because Phase 2 gets messy." As the human forces spread across the colony, the Devourers began to retreat for the first time in their species' history. They had met their match. No, Captain Park realized as she watched the systematic destruction of creatures that had terrorized the galaxy. The Devourers had met something worse than themselves. They had met humanity. The real monsters had arrived, and they were winning. Deep beneath the planet's surface, something ancient stirred in the darkness. The Devourer Queen had been sleeping for 3,000 years in the deepest caverns of Kepler 442b. She was massive beyond imagination, larger than a Federation starship. With intelligence that had guided her species through countless hunts across the galaxy, now she was angry. The Queen's psychic scream tore through the planet's crust and reached every Devourer within 100 light years. Her mental voice carried rage, hunger, and a command that could not be disobeyed. "Come home. Kill everything that moves." Captain Sora Park felt the psychic wave hit her ship's sensors like a physical blow. Emergency alarms screamed across the bridge as energy readings spiked beyond measurement. "What was that?" she gasped, holding her head as a terrible headache pounded behind her eyes. Dr. Colven checked his instruments with shaking hands. Massive psychic emanation from the planet core. Something big just woke up down there. On the planet's surface, human soldiers stopped their advance as they felt the mental pressure. Unlike the Federation species, humans were not naturally telepathic. The Queen's scream affected them differently, making them feel angry instead of afraid. Sergeant Hai-Jin Nam spat on the ground and checked her weapon. "Well, that was unpleasant. Sounds like Mama Bug is awake." Lieutenant De Yoon Yoon watched her scanner as new contacts appeared everywhere. Thousands of them, then tens of thousands. "Sergeant, we have new movement signatures. Massive numbers. Heading our way." The response came from every Devourer ship in nearby space. Vessels that had been traveling to other worlds turned around and raced toward Kepler 442b. The Queen had called her children home for the final battle. Captain Minho Choi watched the sensor readings from the bridge of the Vengeance. His expression never changed as the numbers climbed higher and higher. "Sir, we have over 100,000 Devourers converging on this position," reported his tactical officer. "Maybe more." Captain Choi nodded calmly. Signal Earth Command. Tell them we need Protocol 7 authorization. Captain Park felt her blood turn cold. She had heard that tone before from Federation commanders when they were about to retreat. But Captain Choi did not sound like he was planning to run. Captain Choi, should we evacuate our forces? She asked over the communication channel. The human captain looked at her with those cold eyes. Captain Park, I need you to move your ship back to minimum safe distance. This is about to become a human-only operation. What is Protocol 7? Captain Park asked. Captain Choi smiled that dangerous smile again. You do not want to know. Down on the planet, Commander Yuna Song received the authorization code from Earth Command. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. Then she gathered her senior officers for a briefing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been authorized for Protocol 7, she announced. All Federation personnel are to be evacuated immediately. We have 30 minutes to clear the area. Major Seok Jin Han looked at the tactical display showing incoming Devour forces. Ma'am, are we really going to use the big toys? Commander. Song nodded grimly. The Devourer Queen has called every bug in this sector to come home. We need to send a message that will be heard across the galaxy. The human soldiers began moving with new urgency. They loaded their wounded onto evacuation transports and pulled back to defensive positions around the main landing zone. But they were not retreating. They were preparing. Captain Park watched in confusion as human ships began launching small containers toward the planet's surface. The containers were marked with symbols she did not recognize, but something about them made her nervous. Federation vessel, this is Commander Song, came the radio call. You need to move your ship back to at least 50,000 kilometers. Right now. Why? Captain Park asked. What are those containers? There was a long pause before Commander Song answered. Captain, those containers hold devices that your people banned from warfare 300 years ago. We kept building them. Captain Park felt her heart stop. The Federation had banned certain weapons because they were too terrible to use. Nuclear weapons. Biological weapons. Things that destroyed entire planets. You cannot use those weapons. Here, she said quickly. The colony still has survivors. We know, Commander Song replied. We already evacuated them. All 22,000 of them are safe on our ships. Captain Park checked her own sensors. It was true. While her forces had been watching the fighting, the humans had quietly rescued every surviving colonist. How did you manage that? She asked. We are good at our job, Commander Song said simply. The first wave of returning devourers crashed into the colony like a living tsunami. They came from underground tunnels, from the sky, from every direction at once. The Queen's children had returned to defend their home, but they found something waiting for them that no devourer had ever faced before. Human soldiers who had stopped holding back. Corporal Jae-Sun Kang set up his position in the colony's central plaza. Around him, his squad prepared weapons that made their earlier equipment look like toys. Heavy cannons that fired explosive rounds. Flamethrowers that burned hot enough to melt steel. Chemical weapons that dissolved anything organic. Here they come, he said calmly as the ground began to shake from thousands of approaching devourers. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Devourers that had terrorized civilizations for millions of years met humans who had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing. Private first, Class Hyena Kim moved through the darkness like a ghost. Her night vision equipment let her see every devourer before they saw her. Her weapons were designed for one purpose: maximum lethality in minimum time. She did not fight with honor or mercy. She fought to win. The devourers discovered that their acid blood meant nothing to human chemical suits. Their armor could not stop human armor-piercing rounds. Their coordination was matched by human tactical computers that predicted their every move. Worst of all, Their numbers meant nothing to humans who had brought the right tools for the job. Engineer Specialist Kyung-Soo Bae armed the special devices that had been deployed around the colony. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering. Weapons that could crack the planet's crust. Devices that turned the Devourer's own tunnels into death traps. Protocol 7 devices are armed and ready, he reported to Commander Song. Hold position, she replied. Let them get closer. The Devourer Queen felt her children dying above her. For the first time in her ancient existence, she knew fear. These new creatures fought with a viciousness that matched her own species, but with intelligence that exceeded it. She began to climb toward the surface, her massive body crushing rock and stone. If her children could not kill these invaders, she would do it herself. Deep in the planet's crust, sensors detected her movement. Human computers calculated her path and speed. The trap was almost ready. Captain Park watched from her ship as the battle raged below. She saw things that would give her nightmares for years. Humans fighting with weapons that should not exist. Tactics that belonged in the darkest chapters of military history. But they were winning. The real monsters had come to play, and they were teaching the galaxy what true terror looked like. The ground split open like a wound as the Devourer Queen pushed her massive body toward the surface. She was larger than anyone had imagined. Her head alone was the size of a building, with thousands of eyes that glowed red in the darkness. 6 legs thick as tree trunks carried her upward through solid rock. Commander Yuna Song watched the seismic readings and smiled coldly. Perfect. She is coming right to us. Captain Sora Park felt sick as she watched the sensors from her ship. Commander Song, that creature is enormous. Your ground forces cannot possibly fight something that size. We are not going to fight her, Commander Song replied. We are going to make her an offer. The Queen burst through the colony's main plaza. With a roar that shattered windows across the settlement, her children swarmed around her massive form, creating a living carpet of claws and teeth. She looked down at the small human figures scattered below her. These tiny creatures had killed thousands of her offspring. Now she would crush them personally. Engineer Specialist Kyung-Soo Bae finished arming the last nuclear device. The humans had placed 12 of them in a perfect circle around the plaza. Each bomb was designed not just to explode, but to collapse the underground tunnel system and create a crater that would be visible from space. All devices armed and synchronized, he reported. Yield is set for maximum psychological impact. The Queen's massive head swung toward the humans. Her psychic voice boomed across the battlefield, speaking in perfect Federation standard through her natural telepathy. You will die slowly for what you have done to my children, she promised. Captain Yunji Wang stepped forward. She was small compared to the massive alien, but she showed no fear as she looked up at the creature that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. Actually, we have a better idea, she said calmly. You have 2 choices. The Queen's thousands of eyes focused on the tiny human. You dare to give me choices? Captain Wang nodded. Choice 1. You and all your remaining children surrender immediately. We will relocate you to a prison world where you can live peacefully without eating anyone. The Queen's laughter was like grinding stone. And choice 2? Captain Wang pointed to the devices placed around the plaza. Choice 2. We turn you into radioactive glass and make sure every species in the galaxy knows what happens to things that eat civilians. For the first time in her ancient existence, the Devourer Queen felt genuine uncertainty. These humans spoke with absolute confidence. They showed no fear of her size or power. Something in their tone suggested they had faced worse things than her. You would destroy this entire planet? She asked. Just the parts with you in them, Captain Wang replied. We already saved all the colonists. This is now officially pest control property. The Queen reached out with her psychic powers to read the human's mind. What she found there made her recoil in horror. The human was not bluffing. In her memories were images of things that made even the Queen's ancient nightmares seem pleasant. She saw humans fighting wars against their own species with weapons that cracked continents. She saw cities turn to ash in seconds. She saw species that had learned to kill on a scale that exceeded even devourer imagination. Worse than the weapons was the attitude. These humans did not see her as a terrifying monster. They saw her as a problem to be solved efficiently. "You are insane," the Queen whispered. Warrant Officer Chang Min Park spoke up from his position near one of the nuclear devices. "Lady, you decided to eat innocent people. That was your choice. This is ours." The countdown timer showed 30 seconds remaining. The Queen could feel the energy building in the human weapons around her. She had fought countless battles across millions of years, but she had never faced anything like this. These humans were willing to turn an entire section of planet into a wasteland just to make a point. "Wait," she said quickly. "Perhaps we can negotiate." Captain Wang shook her head. "The time for negotiation was before you started eating civilians. Now you get to choose how you want to die." 20 seconds. The Queen's psychic scream reached every devourer on the planet. Her message was simple: run. These creatures are worse than us. Her children began retreating in panic. For the first time in their species' history, devourers were fleeing from prey. 15 seconds. "I surrender," the Queen said desperately. "I accept your first choice." Captain Wang looked at her watch. "Too late. You took too long to decide." 10 seconds. The Queen realized with growing horror that the humans were going to detonate their weapons regardless of her surrender. This was not about justice or protection. This was about sending a message to every hostile species in the galaxy. 5 seconds. "You are the real monsters," the Queen whispered. Captain Wang nodded. "Yes, and now everyone will know it." The nuclear devices detonated simultaneously. The explosion was visible from orbit as a miniature sun bloomed on the planet's surface. The fail blast vaporized the Queen instantly and collapsed the entire underground tunnel network. A shockwave rolled across the colony ruins, turning sand into glass and rock into dust. When the light faded, a perfect crater marked where the devourer Queen had made her last stand. Captain So-Ra Park stared at her sensors in shock. The humans had actually done it. They had used weapons banned by civilized society to solve their pest problem. "Commander Song, status report," she called weakly. "Mission accomplished," came the calm reply. "Pest control operation is complete. All targets neutralized." The surviving devourers scattered to their ships and fled into deep space. But they carried something with them that would spread across the galaxy faster than any ship. Fear. Word began to spread through the dark corners of space. The devourers, creatures that had terrorized civilizations for millions of years, had been destroyed in a single day by a species most aliens considered primitive. The message was clear. There were new apex predators in the galaxy, and they called themselves human. Pirate lords who had raided shipping lanes for decades suddenly found other things to do. Hostile alien species that had been planning invasions quietly canceled their operations. Criminal organizations that had operated with impunity began looking over their shoulders. The humans had not just won a battle. They had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. On Earth, Admiral Wu Jin Li received the mission report with satisfaction. Humanity had been waiting for this opportunity for years. Now the galaxy would know that there were consequences for threatening innocent people. The real monsters had made their introduction to galactic society, and everyone was paying attention. 3 days after the nuclear fire died down on Kepler 442b, representatives from across the Federation gathered on the diplomatic station New Harmony. The emergency council meeting had been called to discuss what everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to say out loud. Humanity had just become the most Dangerous species in known space. Ambassador Tae-min Kim sat at the curved conference table, looking exhausted but alive. The humans had saved him and every other survivor from the colony. He should have felt grateful. Instead, he felt terrified. Captain Sora Park stood at the front of the room, showing sensor recordings from the battle. Federation diplomats from dozens of worlds watched in stunned silence as the footage played. The complete destruction of creatures that had haunted galactic nightmares for millions of years. The human response was remarkably efficient, she reported in a shaky voice. Total mission time, 18 hours. Casualties among human forces, 1 twisted ankle. Enemy casualties. Complete extinction of all Devourer forces in this sector. Admiral Zethmar of the Federation Defense Force leaned forward in his chair. His 3 eyes were wide with disbelief. Captain Park, are you telling us that humans eliminated a threat that has terrorized the galaxy for millennia in less than 1 day? Yes, sir, Captain Park replied. And they seemed to enjoy doing it. The conference room fell silent. Through the large windows they could see human ships patrolling the space around the station. Earth had assigned a permanent security detail to protect Federation diplomatic sites. Whether this was protection or a subtle threat was unclear. Admiral Woo-Jin Lee entered the conference room wearing his dress uniform. Every Federation representative stood up automatically, though none of them were sure why. Something about the human admiral demanded respect through pure presence. Please sit, Admiral Lee said politely. I understand you have questions about our pest control methods. Dr. Colven, the Federation's leading expert on hostile alien species, spoke first. Admiral Lee, how were your forces so effective against creatures that have defeated our military for centuries? Admiral Lee smiled. Unlike the cold expressions of the human soldiers, his smile seemed genuinely warm. Doctor, I think you misunderstand. What humans are, may I explain? The Federation delegates nodded eagerly. Humans evolved on what you would call a death world, Admiral Lee began. Everything on our planet tried to kill us. Large predators, poisonous plants, extreme weather, disease, other humans. We survived by becoming better killers than anything else. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Images of human wars, hunting expeditions, and technological development filled the air above the conference table. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy, Admiral Lee continued. We are not the fastest or the smartest, but we are persistence hunters. We track our prey across vast distances. We never give up. We adapt to any environment. Most importantly, we work together to kill things that are bigger and stronger than we are. Dr. Sun Mian, a human scientist, joined the presentation. She looked less intimidating than the military personnel, but her words were just as chilling. The Devourers made a fundamental mistake, Dr. An explained. They assumed that being the apex predator on their world made them the apex predator everywhere. But humans climb to the top of our food chain by hunting apex predators. She showed images of early humans killing massive creatures with simple tools and coordinated tactics. We have been exterminating dangerous species for 50,000 years, she said calmly. Devourers were just another pest problem. Ambassador Velkrin from the Zephyrian Republic raised a shaking hand. But the weapons you used? Nuclear devices, chemical weapons. The Federation banned these things because they are too terrible for civilized warfare. Admiral Lee nodded gravely. You banned them because you developed better alternatives. We kept building them because sometimes you need the right tool for the job. Captain Minho Choi stepped forward. Federation species wage war to resolve political disputes. Humans wage war to completely eliminate threats. We do not fight to win territory or resources. We fight to make sure the enemy never threatens anyone. Again, the conference room grew even quieter. Federation diplomats began to understand something that made their blood run cold. Humans did not see the Devourers as worthy opponents in an honorable conflict. They saw them as vermin to be exterminated with maximum efficiency. "What do you want from the Federation?" asked Ambassador Kim. Admiral Lee exchanged glances with his officers. "Actually, we have a business proposal." He activated another holographic display showing a map of Federation space. Red markers indicated locations where hostile activities had been reported over the past year. Piracy, raiding, hostile alien incursions, dangerous wildlife on colony worlds, Admiral Lee listed. "You have pest problems throughout your territory. We would like to offer our services." Dr. An pulled up statistical data. Since word of the Devourer extermination spread, piracy in this sector has decreased by 97%. Hostile alien activity has dropped to almost nothing. Criminal organizations are relocating to areas without human presence. Fear is an effective deterrent, Captain Choi added with that dangerous smile. The Federation delegates looked at each other nervously. They were being offered protection by the most effective killers in galactic history. "What would you require?" "In return?" asked Admiral Zethmar. "Standard military contractor rates," Admiral Lee replied. "Plus authorization to use whatever methods we deem necessary to solve each pest problem." Ambassador Kim remembered the nuclear fire that had consumed the Devourer Queen. "What if we refuse?" Admiral Lee shrugged. "Then you handle your own pest problems. We will respect your decision." But his tone suggested that refusal would mean accepting responsibility for any future civilian casualties that could have been prevented. The Federation Council voted unanimously to accept Earth's pest control services. 6 months later, hostile activity in Federation space had virtually disappeared. Pirate fleets disbanded rather than face human hunter-killer squadrons. Dangerous alien species retreated to distant regions of space. Criminal organizations found legitimate work in sectors protected by human forces. The galaxy had learned a simple lesson. There were consequences for threatening innocent people. Those consequences came with human faces and spoke with Earth accents. In the darkest corners of space, new stories spread among criminals and raiders. Whispered warnings about a species that hunted monsters for fun. Tales of humans who laughed while destroying things that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. The message was clear and final. Humanity had claimed the role of apex predator in civilized space. And everyone who might threaten civilians now knew that the real monsters were watching. Captain Sora Park received a new assignment patrolling the peaceful trade routes of the inner Federation worlds. Her ship rarely encountered hostile activity anymore. When pirates did appear, they usually surrendered immediately upon learning that human pest control teams were only a hyperspace jump away. The galaxy had become a much safer place for those who deserved safety.